Mr. Governor, well, first of all, thank you very much indeed.
Welcome to the free state of Florida.
I've come all the way from London for this, so, that's because London, like most cities in the world right now, and most countries in the world, they're all beginning to ask the same question. Who's this guy, Ron DeSantis? Are you aware of this?
I am, and we've been able to see a little bit of that. And look, I have the privilege of being the governor of one of the most dynamic jurisdictions in the world right now. If you look over the last 4 or 5 years, the amount of people that have decided to move to Florida, just visit Florida, or even just look to Florida for inspiration has been unlike anything we've seen in the state's history. So we've got a lot of tremendous people here. We've got a lot going on that's positive, and we're not afraid to lead the way.
I want to start with a positive quote, which you're going to really like, and then move on to some negatives that other people have said. So it's going to start well, this, okay? This is from a guy called Richard Littlejohn. He writes for the Daily Mail newspaper in the UK, also a Florida resident for many decades. And he's a friend of mine. And he wrote this recently: DeSantis is living proof that when conservatives govern as conviction conservatives, committed to freedom, light regulation, low taxes, strong borders, and proper policing, and don't crumble in the face of militant wokery, voters lap it up. What's your response to that first?
Well,
is that a good categorization of why you think you've been successful?
I think all that's true. I think, you just think of the environment. We've done more on conservation for our Everglades, but this is like things that really matter to people. I'm not trying to control their lives. I'm just trying to make the environment better. Crime, we're law and order. We are not dealing with letting criminals out or going soft. I actually removed a Soros-backed prosecutor from Tampa who said he wasn't going to follow the law. COVID, we made sure that we protected people's freedoms. People knew they could come here and do well. And yes, we have no income tax. We have one of the lowest per capita tax burdens in the country, lowest per capita debt burdens in the country, and the largest budget surplus in the history of the state. We have more people, significantly more people employed today than we did pre-COVID. A lot of the lockdown states still haven't gotten back to their pre-COVID employment levels. And so I think what we've done has worked, and I think people have responded positively.
All this has made you very popular in Florida. I mean, just anecdotally, being here for a few days, I've been completely stunned, frankly, by the amount of adulation you get from Floridians. But as your star has risen, as you know, out have come the knives. This is from Vanity Fair. They said you're a wannabe autocrat, already governed the Sunshine State like a banana republic. You're the Genghis Khan of social issues, using every opportunity to target and demonize groups that have already been targeted and demonized throughout history. Trevor Noah called you an ignorant racist. Stephen Colbert, a gaping bleep. Seth Meyers said you were cruel, sadistic, stupid, repulsive, ghoulish. When you see this kind of hatred, what it says to me as a journalist who's covered a lot of presidential runs and political maneuverings is that it means that people are getting a bit worried about you.
I think it's right. I think they see me over the target. I'm obviously coming at it from a different perspective than they like to see. Those are all people on the left and sometimes far left. But here's the thing. I think the reason why I won the biggest landslide in the history of Florida for governor's race is because that criticism is so far removed from the reality. There's legitimate things we can criticize everybody for, including me. But when you start talking about being an autocrat, all I do is I look at my constitutional powers and I govern in a way to advance the principles that I believe in. The criticism really falls on deaf ears. And I got it from all quarters for the whole time I was governor. I mean,
right.
You know, during COVID, I was the #1 governor being attacked.
I criticized you.
There you go. And that's
discovered
fine.
today, I checked what I tweeted about you historically.
There you go.
And I found a tweet, I think in 2021, where it looked like Florida's record was not going to be good on COVID because you've been one of the first people in America, certainly, to bring back freedoms for people. And I was quite scathing. I said, this guy's going to have blood on his hands. Actually, it didn't turn out that way. Actually, you were very bold in a lot of the stuff you were doing, bolder than many other governors. And it turned out in many areas you were vindicated.
Well, here's the thing. Excess mortality, lowest in the Sun Belt, even lower than New York and California for all-cause excess mortality. And then, of course, economically and freedom, we've done way better. Now, listen. I was very concerned about COVID because I've got more elderly than just about anyone. I've got 4,000 long-term care facilities. I've got condos with seniors stuffed in them all across. So this was, and I'm a tourism state. So this was a huge existential threat to Florida.
One of the other criticisms that's used against you is about your personality. it probably comes from people who don't know you very well, because those who do, who I've spoken to, tell a different story. But you're being depicted in some of the national media as very intense, quite boring, charisma devoid. You know, someone reviewed your book and said he would launch any charm offensive unarmed.
Well, I appreciate the knocks on the book. It's the #1 book in America,
right,
far and away. I've sold more than any non-president in the history of the country in terms of the first week. So we've been doing pretty good. A lot of people like it.
Does a hostile New York Times review help sales?
Yes, with conservatives, of course it does, yes. So here's the thing, I think, you know, there is, these are people who are in the political class, journalist class, politicians, and like DC in particular. They get mad. I don't do the cocktail parties. I don't like rubbing elbows with other people. I like doing my job and then spending time with my family. That's just what I do. A lot of the people that are criticizing, you know, they would say, oh, he doesn't do well with donors. He doesn't glad hand with them. And yet I raise more money than any non-presidential candidate in the history of America. Are you kidding me? So we tend to do, we do well, but I do think that, you know, I deal better with regular people than I do with some of the people in the political class.